So just a few words on the latest developments from Gaza. I've made a few videos on this subject, and my videos so far have obviously taken a pro-Israel angle. I stand by the principles of what I've said in those videos, but I also want to emphasize that that doesn't mean I support every single thing Israel does, and the latest developments I absolutely cannot condone in any way. So reports as well that it has happened. There is a school that is serving as a UN compound at the moment, and it got hit today in a blast. At least 16 people killed, many wounded. There were some truly harrowing scenes on CNN of people wailing and horribly injured children and that sort of thing. Now, this is something that if the IDF is responsible for, apologies really aren't enough this time. The UN has said that they told Israel the coordinates of this school several times, not once, several times. So Israel has no excuses for this, if it turns out that Israel is indeed responsible. Israel are saying that it was Hamas firing a rocket, but in all honesty that is what they say for everything. Having said that, a few days ago Ban Ki-moon did criticise Hamas for storing weaponry in that school, which was clearly designated as a UN compound. Now regardless, it still doesn't justify what has happened, if this is indeed an IDF action, and it most likely is. So as someone who believes in Israel's right to exist, as someone who believes in Israel's right to act against Hamas rocket attacks, I'm sitting here now and saying that this is something that cannot be condoned. It's a disgrace. If the IDF ignored those warnings from the UN about the coordinates of this school, that suggests one of two things. It suggests that they callously ignored it and didn't care and hit this building because it had Hamas weapons, which is a disgrace. Or it just shows that their intelligence is, in terms of precision, is pretty lousy. Either way it's bad, but I hope it's the latter. If it's the former, that is an utter disgrace. It's no good just expressing regret and saying sorry. Now the IDF has to be looking, Netanyahu has to be looking for an endgame here. There's far too many civilians have died, and every single Palestinian civilian death will further isolate Israel. I am saying this as someone who has in previous videos defended Israel. And it's not that I'm retracting what I've said. I still believe that Israel has had to act against this barrage of rockets that have come from Gaza. And by the way, the leader of Hamas has been in Qatar whilst his people have been suffering, so, you know, Hamas has to answer questions as well. But on this occasion, I cannot condone this at all. And I hope this serves to show that I'm not a sycophant for Israel. I will speak out when I believe Israel is wrong. This is one such occasion. There are those who say that Israel is wrong 100% with this conflict. I don't entirely agree with that. I believe that Israel had to act with what it was facing. But this particular incident, which is a word that trivializes it because the scenes from that compound were horrible. You know, I sometimes ask, why is it this conflict gets more attention? Well, I guess scenes like that show why. Of course, you would get similar scenes in Syria tonight and in other war zones around the world. It's just that there is more of a media focus on Gaza, and when you see horribly injured children who can't get painkillers because the doctors have to treat them as fast as possible before moving on to the next victim, you'd be a pretty cold bastard not to respond to that emotionally. I'm sure there's many Israelis who would be uncomfortable saying that as well. So there has to be an end game here. Israel, for its part, their objective here was to punish Hamas. Well, they've made their point. And as someone who believes in Israel, I say now, Israel, IDF, the further you go on with this, the further you're going to isolate yourself. So I'm saying now, stop, find a ceasefire, end this. Because far too many civilians have died, and all you're going to do is encourage future generations to hate you. End this. Hamas, as far as I know, as much as I despise Hamas, as much as I find them a vile organisation, they are also calling for a ceasefire now, so this has to be the end game. The questions about what's happening can be discussed there, but now this is a humanitarian situation, it has to end. So I am calling, as a supporter of Israel's right to exist, as a supporter of Israel's right to defend itself, I'm saying now this has to end. So I'm saying to Mr. Netanyahu, find an end game here. Make this end, because you can call off this IDF offensive now. There's been no further reports on the IDF soldier who was supposedly kidnapped, so I'm guessing that was false claims. If he has been kidnapped, or she, then it's going to really complicate matters, because there's no way Israel's going to pull back. So I hope, for the sake of everyone, that that soldier hasn't been kidnapped. And if that soldier hasn't been kidnapped, Israel has no excuses to continue this, really. Yes, it's a disgrace if it's the case that Hamas has been storing weapons in this school, but in the end of the day, whatever the intentions are, what we have here is mass civilian deaths. So the IDF has to hold back, because it doesn't matter if Israel is sending humanitarian aid to Gaza at the same time. What the world sees is Israel killing civilians, and Israel is killing civilians. Whatever the intentions are, it's no good saying, well, that's not our intention and we regret it. There has to come a point when you draw a line and say enough is enough. Too many people have died. So as someone who is not one of these people who say Israel needs to be wiped off the map, who has that sort of mindset, I'm saying too many people have died. This incident is a disgrace, and this has to end.